So what do you do when there's a disconnect between your leadership team members? There's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is you talk it out. The long answer and the more complicated, nuanced answer is you need to talk it out, but you need to figure out what thing you're talking through and the layers of the onion of that conflict. My name is Anthony Taylor. I'm the CEO of SME Strategy. We facilitate strategic planning sessions, and I coach executives on organizations, companies of $100 million and more. And that's a big challenge that happens with leadership teams. It's a big challenge that happens with every organization. Disconnects between leadership team members. Sometimes they can be very easy. Sometimes they can be complex, but they never go away. And so in this video, I wanted to go over a couple areas that you can think about and consider as you work through conflicts with your own team. Now, you might have conflict with somebody in your organization. Somebody in your organization might have conflicts with you. You might have different dynamics with different teams and different groups. And so I believe no situation is unworkoutable. You just have to figure out what lever you're going to pull and push to be able to, move your team forward. So the first area of conflict or area of disconnect is at the vision level. If different people in the organization have different understanding or different expectations of what a company or organization success is, you're going to have conflict because you're going to prioritize and work on different things. We've named it, branded it in terms of the multiple destination trap. It creates frustration, it creates uncertainty, it creates gaps. So, the first place to start for us as a leadership team or working within leadership teams is, are we all clear on the one destination that we're going to? Are we clear on our mission? Are we clear on our vision? Are we clear on our priorities? Are we clear on our values? And that can address many, but certainly not all leadership team conflicts. And so a way to boil that down is your team all going to the same place? If you're not going to the same place, you're going to different places. And it means you are not connected. You're not on the same page. The next is working style. And this one is interesting. So our team recently went through the Clifton Strengths Finder to understand, each of our individual strengths and build our own understand our respective working styles. And what was really interesting is that while we had similar strengths, the unique flavor version combination of strengths made how we approached problems, how we communicated, how we thought of things to be very, very different. And so understanding one person's working style, for example, many CEOs are extremely visionary, they're extremely futuristic, they're extremely optimistic about things, but where that creates conflict or disconnect is when you have managers, leaders who are responsible for driving that vision forward, or those that want more detail and that broad picture doesn't help. Or typically CEOs are a couple steps ahead, they've thought it through in their head, they've communicated not necessarily a half-baked idea, but it's an idea that isn't communicated fully, so it doesn't land with the person listening to it. It creates frustration, it creates uncertainty, it creates doubt, it creates conflict, it creates disconnect. So, if you want to be able to improve the connectedness, the trust within your leadership team, consider working styles, consider doing something like a Clifton Strengths Finder or any real workshop to help you understand your working style so that you can have both empathy, understanding, and as a leader, cater to the people that you're working with instead of having other people, cater to what you want. That's just more effective that way. Third area that might cause a disconnect with your team is wants, needs, and motivators. Sometimes we assume that everybody has the best interest in mind. Now, that best interest might be self-preservation. That interest might be power and control. It might be autonomy. It might be not looking bad. And so you want to assume good intent, but if different people have different motivators and different why outside of the organizational vision, it's going to create a disconnect. If I'm driving towards X outcome and you are driving towards Y outcome, it's going to be a challenge. Now, so far, I've kind of explained this or contextualized this in the area of like leadership teams, but you think that this continues along managers and employees. The number one driver for people, typically humans, is survival. So people will hold on to power as a means of continuing their survival in an organization. So if you are instituting a change, if you are probing at certain areas, they are going to defend and protect themselves, and that can create a disconnect because they're going to hold on to whatever power they have for as long as possible. So when you're working with people, in addition to setting up that vision, understanding someone's working style, but really try to understand their motivators, drivers, their needs and wants. Effective leaders help other people get what they want. So if you can understand what they want, not necessarily what you want, then you can be more effective in bridging that gap, creating that alignment, working together. Another thing that's really interesting about human beings is that we assume a lot of stuff. And we all know the assume, ask you and me thing. But the nuance to assumption is what we believe is true. So I am making a decision on XYZ facts, truths, assumptions that I have. Meanwhile, I can be working with a colleague who has a totally different set of information, a totally different set of background and experience. And if I think I'm right and they think they're right, then we are going to collide as two people being right, and we're going to die being right. What's really interesting about that is if you take a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens on conflict, organization, culture, is that everybody has a different lived experience. There's trauma that has occurred in everybody's life, and that creates a filter or a lens on how they view things. And so if you, as in my case, white male, has a different perspective, assumption, truth for a person of color, a female, someone with disability, another white male in a different cultural background setting, or even just different lived experience, we're going to have different truths. We're going to have different understanding. We're going to have different data sets that might cause a disconnect because there's just not the right. And so being able to challenge your own truths or clarify, hey, what are you believing to be true? Or this is what I believe to be true about what you want. And it's a negotiation tactic as well. And so it's basically everything we're talking about here to bridge the disconnect is understanding the other person better so that you can find that common ground. We say all the time in our strategy sessions, it's not always about agreement. It's about alignment. Can we get on the same page? Can I see your point of view? Can you see my point of view? So that we can, come to that intertwined piece that'll support us better. So if you challenge your understandings, assumptions, and truths, then it'll help you move forward. And the last thing that I want to talk about managing disconnects is just conflict. And conflict is not necessarily bad. I'm recording this in LA today, and in the West Coast, even in North America, generally have a conflict avoiding culture, whereas European cultures, African cultures, the conflict is okay. And so conflict is good as long as you're having productive conflict. Many organizations, I won't say most, don't want to go through conflict. They want to build around it because it's more comfortable building around the conflict. The problem is that conflict doesn't go away. You're tiptoeing around it, or you're having side conversations where a leadership team is talking about the conflict except for that one person, and that one person is on the out, and they will continue to be on the out until you put my friend says, moose on the table, which I guess is a Canadianism. And so conflict, in my opinion, the best way to work through conflict is to go through it, but focus on the process, not the person. If you can focus on the process and the heart of the conflict, then you're going to be more effective in dealing with it. You're going to be more effective as a leader, and then you're going to be able to build your organization from a sustainable footing. If you avoid conflict because it's uncomfortable, which it is, it's never going away. So you're kind of building on a little crack foundation. And so you're going to have to revisit it every single time. Now, having a facilitator like someone at SME Strategy to help you work through that conflict is a lot easier way to deal with it versus having two people in a rage room like fight it out. Now, either way works. The key point is sometimes in order to manage those disconnect and bridge that disconnect, that you need to be able to have that conflict and manage conflict effectively. So if there's a disconnect between your leadership team and yourself or anyone in your organization, look at a couple areas: your vision, your working style, your wants, needs, motivators, your understanding, your assumptions, and your truths. as well as conflict that exists. If you can work on those things and start peeling back the layer, you can build your organizational trust, you can build effectiveness and communication, and ultimately you're going to build performance in your leadership team. You build performance in your leadership team, it'll build performance in your managers, it'll build employee performance in your full organization, and it'll help you get to the vision. Everything we talk about at SME Strategy is about getting to the vision. And so if you've got a big vision that you want to accomplish, and there's some stuff you need to work through, consider hiring us, hiring a facilitator, doing whatever coursework you need to be able to effectively bridge the gap, bridge that disconnect between your leadership team members so that you can be more effective moving forward. So what do you think? Have you seen the same things that we have? Do you have the same perspectives? Do you have tools that you like? Drop them in the comment or on LinkedIn, engage in the conversation. Love to hear from you. I hope you find these videos useful. I hope you enjoy this edition of Leaders Digest. I hope you enjoy this YouTube podcast, whatever it comes out. And I just appreciate you watching. So once again, my name is Anthony Taylor. I'm the CEO at SME Strategy. If you're doing a strategy session soon, be sure to reach out to us because we'd be happy to help you and your team manage conflict effectively so that you can stay aligned and get to your one destination. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.